was just white, looked like a big white mushroom.
Sarah died.
I'm sorry.
So Sarah died in Persia, Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Then Abraham stood up from before his dead and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a foreigner and a visitor among you. Give me property for a burial place among you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. That's the first one.
Okie dokies.
Yours says, give me, mine says, sell me some property for a burial site.
Okay, so yeah, so what does mine says I'm a stranger, yeah, among you, give me a burial site. Yeah. Give me, the New King James Version tells me, let me see, let me match them up here because this is very
Mine
tricky.
says sell me. Okay.
Genesis 23. It says give me, let's
burial place of mine.
okay, well, let's do the King James. Let's do the King James Version here. Where is my King James?
The purple. It's the purple.
The purple one? No, that's the new one. King James Bible. Bible version. King James. James? No. Oh, sí, juez. I guess not. King James, all? Okay, never mind. All right, so does anybody have a different version of verse 4, whether it was give or sell? Guys up there? Joe? Irene?
Okay, it doesn't say on mine.
Oh, it doesn't tell you on yours. Okay. Well, we're gonna, yeah.
It's the Life Principles Bible.
Yeah, I think probably Docs is the most accurate one because it did turned out that he sold it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so let's go through question 1. How long did Sarah live in Genesis 23:1?
127 years.
127 years, that is correct.
Yeah.
And where did she die? Hebron, that's correct.
In the land of Canaan.
In the land of Canaan. Where did Abraham go and what did he do?
Well, when it says go, I'm not sure he had to go a long ways. He was already there in Hittite country because he was there to it had to be a close proximity to where she died. It says, so that I can, let's see.
Mourn Sarah and weep for her.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was mourning her and weeping for her, and then he asked for a burial site, to buy a burial site. Sell me some property for a burial site here so I can bury my dead. The Hittites replied to Abraham, Sir, listen to us, you are a mighty prince among us.
Okay, that's for later. You're getting ahead.
I'll get carried away.
Yeah, you're getting carried away. So, so this went in. I don't know if we were discussing it whether he was in another place that he had to arrive to where Sarah was, or whether he was outside and he went into Sarah's tent, or what the deal with.
I didn't think that's the way it was.
Yeah, but it's not very clear. Question B.
I had a question. On the Bible that I have, it starts talking about paying for the site on verse 13. He spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying,
Okay, but that's like way ahead. We're in Genesis 23:2. Yeah, we're like really way ahead. So let's go by order. Let's go by order. Yeah.
The King James says, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. That's the King James version.
Yes, okay, gotcha. All right, so uh so in verse 23:3, okay, it says here, you know, that he went into mourn for Sarah, and what did he do? In
He
verse 2,
He's mourned for her.
he mourned, and what else? He wept,
Wept.
right? He wept.
Yeah.
Okay. So he wept. So what did he do after he wept though? Did he stay weeping? Did he stay mourning? Or what did he do? In verse 3.
Yes, he stood up from the dead and he spake to the sons of Heth.
Okay, very good. Let's stop there. Okay, so this is my application questions for you all. Have you ever lost someone close? And how did you mourn for them? Did you stay like weeping, or okay, all right, Miss Mataya, I saw your oh my goodness, I'm not sharing the screen. Okay, sorry guys. Let me share the screen. Share the screen. Ooh, there we go. There we go. Now we're talking. No wonder it looked a little different. Okay, so so have you ever lost someone? And this could be a pet, it could be a family member, it could be anything that you really, really loved. How did you mourn for that person or that thing? What was your response?
I think it depends on the person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. When I was 8 years old, I lost a friend. She was Mama Estelle. Mama Estelle was the midwife who delivered me.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were born, we lived on their place, and she just came to the house, I guess, where Mama was giving birth. And I don't know all the details, but I'm sure she didn't just walk through the door. But anyway, she delivered me and taught my mother how to care for me. And she was like my grandmother all the way up until she died. I spent many a night her slept in the same bed with her.
Mm-hmm.
And it broke my heart that Mama Estelle was dying. She was, had died. She was 8. I was about 8 years old when this happened, and I cried and cried and cried. Now the difference in that and my parents, when my mother passed away, about a year after my mother passed away, I was talking to my sister, and she said, "How do you get over the more? I can't stop mourning for our mama. How did you get over that, or have you gotten over it?" I said, "No, I never mourned." And she said, "What do you mean you never mourned?" I said, "Well, I missed her, and I cried a little bit, but I said it was over." I said, yours is not grief, yours is guilt."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "You need to get over that, I said, I was always good to Mama. I was the oldest, and I was always good to Mama, and her whole life. And I tried to make her life easier, and I was successful on many times of doing little things for her that made her life easier. So, I did all that I could for her while she was alive. So you need to get over the guilt and that sort of thing. Also, now I lost my wife before Ruth. I lost her in 05. When I met Ruth a year later in 06, I was still grieving for her, and Ruth helped me through that.
Mm-hmm.
So I missed her so much because she was the best human being I'd ever known. We were married for 12 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I met Ruth, and she, her presence, I got out of that. But I think it depends on the person, the situation, the things like that.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else to share? Now, I want to ask you another question, and you can think about sharing or not. But for those who became Christians later on in life, like me, it's like I wasn't. I didn't, I wasn't raised up as going to church and everything. What was the difference in your view of losing somebody before you came to Christ and after you came to Christ? Did it help you or did it not help you?
Well, see, when I lost Mama Estelle, I was too young to really, get into,
Mm-hmm.
the worship of Christ and stuff.
Yeah.
So that didn't really have an effect on me. And by the time my mom and dad passed away, I had become a Christian. So, your outlook, my outlook, when you lose someone that is a Christian,
Yes.
then it's sadness on the part that you're going to miss their presence, but it's gladness and happiness on the part that they're in a better world.
Yes.
And they're being
Very good.
rewarded for being a Christian, a worshiper of God.
Yes.
So I think that makes all the difference
Mm-hmm.
to people that are Christians or people that aren't Christians.
Yes. Now the opposite thing goes, because I know that I have a lot of friends that are Christians that have lost their children that were not Christian. It's heartbreaking.
Yes.
It's heartbreaking because they know that they weren't saved.
They were, when that person that you loved and cared about is in hell,
that can be excruciating for sure.
Yes, that's got to be grief,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of grief there.
Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts on this matter? I mean, what is your viewpoint about death? It's like, are you scared of dying, or do you already know where you're going?
No, I'm not afraid of dying.
I'm not afraid of dying. I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid for,
It depends on the age that you have. If you talk about death when you're young, you think you're invisible. When I was in California, I was driving a motorcycle. I mean, that was my main transportation. In 2 years, I almost got killed in it. So basically, I had to leave it because before that, a lot of people were telling me, you're going to get killed in that bike. And when you're young, you don't care. So when you grow older, you respect life more.
Well, we ride motorcycles.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but I
we're
mean,
80 years old.
yeah, but what I'm getting to, Joe, is like not really of what's going to happen to your physical self, but what's going to happen to you after you die. Do you know where you're going? Do you know what's going to happen? And does the thought of where you're going, does that make you afraid?
I know I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid.
Because that's something very, very important that we all have to come to terms. And that is what the Bible, that is one of the biggest gifts that God has given us in his promises, that because of Christ, because he resurrected, he came back to life, that same spirit lives in us.
Yeah.
And because we are his children, we are part of his spiritual family. We now have the same ability that even though we die in the flesh, that our future is going to be a lot better than what it is right now. It's like we're going to be with God. There's not going to be any suffering. There's not going to be any tears. We're not going to have this broken body that we have right now. So when you have that promise and that security, it's like, you're not afraid. It's like you say, well, if I die, and you see this a lot with people that have cancer and everything, that they're Christians. It's like, okay, well, it's in God's hands.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't do anything. It's like, it's up to God. But if he takes me, so be it.
Yeah.
And the peace that you get through that is just so much better than if you don't know any of that.
Yeah.
So that's very important, that as a Christian, that we learn that we have that security, that that we've been forgiven, and that this death that we've been talking about since chapter 4 and 5, and then he died, and then he died, and then, well, they didn't have that ability yet to know that somebody had died for them, so that they could be forgiven, and they could be with God. That the promise had been given to them in Genesis 3:15 and 16, but the seed hadn't come yet. Jesus had not come yet.
Right.
So, but we already live under, Jesus. So we do have that promise. So, even though we die, physically, we don't die spiritually. So that's where we are there. Okay.
I have a couple of comments on this.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So the first one is, I know a couple people that were not Christian,
Mhm.
and so when they found out that they had cancer, they asked all of us to pray for them for healing, and that they make promises that if they are healed, that God will heal them from cancer. They will become a believer. Well, this one particular person did that promise, and God healed her, and she went backward. Like, she just continued to live through her life. She did not become a believer. And so I just thought, wow, okay, that's just interesting how, all these broken promises, and God will keep that in the book, whenever that person eventually passed. She's still alive to this day. The second comment is that, so growing up Buddhist, we have a different way of thinking. And, one, of course, is the reincarnation. And, yes, we do believe in heaven and hell, but we also believe that there's a chance that we're going to be reborn. And whatever family that you're born into, you're going to born in the same family. So after becoming a believer, Christian, when I went back home with my mom in 2013, of course, she still dragged me to the temple and worship and pray and everything. And I just stand there. And my mom's like, no, come, because I want to pray so that we can be born into the same family again in our next life. And I was thinking to myself in my head, no, I'm not going to be reborn, because I'm a believer. I believe in Jesus, and I'm going to live forever in heaven with him when I die from this earth.
Yeah.
So I just felt torn, because my mom knows that, I'm a Christian, and I believe that Jesus had died for me and all that stuff. And she's understand the concept of it. But at the same time, I was just really struck out when she said, just come on, pray with me. So I just stand there, and and then I knelt down, but I did not pray.
Yeah.
Just to kind of give
Yeah.
a really weird feeling of having to kind of accommodate her in that sense, and let her believe that, yes, I will be born the next life with her, but I know that I'm not going to be reborn, because I know that will be with Jesus. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah, and I think, I know that when I went to Thailand also, Natalia, that was one of the things that they really wanted you to kneel down and pray to the statues and everything. And the Buddhist temples. And so I would imagine that it's very difficult to go back home and not go with the culture, because also your family, they almost get like hurt if you don't follow that tradition that you've been raised with.
Yeah.
And so I can see where that would be difficult for you too, but it's like you already know as a Christian what is the truth, and you know that you're going to be reborn with Christ and not with, you know, the family. Yeah, very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. But yeah, it's like and that's very interesting also what you said about your friend with the cancer. If you remember, especially in Judges, where the Israelites would always repent and they would always say, oh yes, whenever all these bad things would happen to them, it's like they would say, God, please save us. And then he would save them and they would repent, but they would just go back to their old ways. And eventually God got tired. It's like he'll give you a few chances, but what he'll do is that he'll let you go. It's like, okay, that's what you wanted, you know, he'll let you go. So if you read you know, read Romans 1,
Yeah.
and you're gonna see that God gave them up to these, you know, sensuality and these, you know, sins and everything else, because he'll give you a chance, but eventually he's going to let you go. And that's not a good time. That's not a good day when he does that. So yeah, so hopefully she'll come to repent and come to see that she's not going through the right path. And hopefully it's not going to be cancer again, but who knows, it may be. Okay, so let's keep on going. You see, there's so much to this, and it's a short chapter. Okay, so the sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, okay, this is where he already said, I'm a stranger and traveler among you. Give me a burial site among you that I may bury my dead out of my sight. The sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, hear us, my lord, you are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our graves. None of us will refuse you his grave for burying your dead. So Abraham rose and bowed to the people of the land, the sons of Heth. Okay, so let's go to the questions. So you already answered this, Ruth, that, you know, that they had asked for the burial site and all that stuff. So question 7, how did the sons of Heth address Abraham in verses 23, 5-6?
My Lord.
My Lord, yeah. What's another, what was the other thing? Ruth said, mighty prince. Okay, and what did they offer Abraham?
Any grave site he wanted?
Choicest.
The choicest one, yes. So any grave site. It's like they didn't put any kind of like restrictions. Okay, so I told you here to read verses 7-8 because 18th, because it's just basically the same thing, but it keeps on getting repeated. Okay. So how did Abraham respond to Heth's sons offer to give him the land? And this is in verse, what was it? Well, actually, we haven't even gotten there. Okay. So so he rose and he bows to the people, and he spoke to the people, the sons of Heth, saying, if it is your wish for me to bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and approach Ephron the son of Zohar for me, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he owns, which is at the end of his field, for the full price. Let him give it to me in your presence for a burial site. And I think your translation says sell, right?
Yeah.
Doc? Yeah. It says sell in his translation. So here it says give. Let me see what the New King James Version says. It says, let's see, about give.
It
Yeah,
says
it also
give,
says
yeah.
give. Yeah. So Yes, so how did he respond to his offer to give him the land?
Well, they're basically, this is part of the culture. This negotiation is part of the culture. They know he's going to buy it, but you can't say, okay, it's for sale. Give me X amount of dollars for it.
Yeah,
They go back and forth and back and finally arrive at this 400 shekel price. But they have to go through this cultural thing that they go through, this back and forth banter, back and forth, back and forth. Then they know he's going to buy it, and they know they're going to make a price, tell them what the price is,
yeah.
and then eventually that's what's going to happen. But they have to go through this. This is part of the ritual. So,
Yeah, so that's part of the question that I have here. What could be the reason why Abraham still offered them money? Because of the cultural practices of the time. Does anybody have another reason why he would still offer them money?
Didn't he want to make a covenant with him?
No. Well, I mean, not really, because it doesn't say mention anything about a covenant with them. He wanted to buy he wanted to buy the burial site, but he didn't really want to make like a covenant is basically an agreement between two parties in which blood is spilled, and there's always a consequence on who breaks the covenant.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more involving. But this was just like Abraham wanted that land. He wanted that burial site to bury Sarah. But let's suppose that somebody were to offer to buy something, like an acquaintance were to come to you and they were say, hey, it's like, I can give you, like, if you want to buy 2 acres of land. And then they were saying, no, you don't have to buy it from me. It's like, you can have it for free. What do you think? Would you take it for free, or what do you think is behind all of that in modern times? Because in those times it was a cultural practice to do all that. But if somebody were to do that today, would you take the land, or what would be your response? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, now it's so tied up. I mean, if you wanted the land, you would have to, you want it legally. So in order to do that, you have to give something for it. Okay, you have to give at least $1 plus other valuable considerations. That's the way it's worded. So you don't have to list a price. When you go to the tax office, they'll tell you what it's worth.
No, okay. Well,
that
that's
sort
a
of
good
thing.
point. Yeah, that's
So,
a good point. If you want it, if you don't want any legal ramifications that you didn't get it for anything, then yeah, that could be part of it.
Just, I mean, we're friends. Do you say, okay, I got this old car, I don't need it anymore. I'm gonna just give it to you. Okay. Now, I can take it from you, but I have to give you something for it. And if I go to the tax office and say, what did you give for it? $1? They are not going to believe me. They have a chart here that say, okay, it's a 2013 Toyota Corolla. It's worth X amount of dollars. And that's what you're going to pay tax on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're always going to be paying taxes for the cost of the land.
So I have to give you, I don't have to give you the value of the car, but I have to give you something in order to get the title in my name.
Yeah. Now, yeah, and the other thing too, though, is like, I don't know if I would take something that valuable or something valuable and not have like a suspicion of why somebody was giving that. And not to mention the indebtedness that you would feel towards that person.
Yeah.
Like, especially these were pagan people.
Yeah. Okay, but wait a minute. Now, if you notice somewhere in here, and I don't know exactly which verse it's in, but they met at the gate of the city. Now, when you get there and you got all these people here and we're negotiating and they're just listening, now he says, okay, it's worth 400 shekels. Okay, here's 400 shekels. Okay, now we don't need a document. We have these witnesses that will say, no, I was there. He's told him it was worth 400 shekels. He gave him 400 shekels.
Okay, let's just stop there. You're getting ahead of yourself. Oh
Right.
my God. Okay, so let's keep on going. Okay, so let's keep on going. So here we go. And he spoke to them and he says, it says, hear me and approach Ephron, the son of Zohar, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he owns, which is at the end of his field. For the full price, let him give it to me. So, he's saying for the full price. So giving here is not the same thing as just giving it to him for free. He's offering them the full price.
Yeah.
In your presence for a burial site. Now, Ephron was sitting among the sons of Heth. He wasn't somewhere else. So Ephron was already there.
Yeah.
So Abraham is speaking in front of Ephron, like Doc said, so that he could have witnesses, right? And
the hearing of the sons.
And the hearing of the sons of Heth, yes.
As witnesses. Okay?
Yeah. And Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the sons of Seth, even if all who went in at the gate of the city saying, no, my Lord, hear me. I give you the field, and I give you the cave that is in it. In the presence of the sons of my people, I give it to you, bury your dead. Okay, so it's very important. All right, so let's really analyze verse 11. What had Abraham asked in the original request? Had he asked for a cave only, or the cave and the field?
Well, I think he just wanted a place to bury his dead.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, he wanted somewhere to bury a grave for burying the dead. That's a good one.
He wanted about this cave. It was at the end of the
And then it tells us here in verse 9, it tells him specifically that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he owns.
Yeah.
Which is at the end of his field. Did he tell them that he also wanted to buy the field? The cave is at the end of the field, okay, but he didn't ask to buy the whole field, right? Because it's at the end of the field.
Yeah, not at this point.
Not at this point. So this is Abraham trying to negotiate. So he wants the cave of Machpelah, which is at the end of Ephron's, the end of the field. But now Ephron, look at what he's saying here in verse 11. I give you the field and I give you the cave that is in it. Okay, so what two things are now under negotiation?
The field and the cave.
The field and the cave.
Very good. Okay, so we're all on that, the field and the cave. So now the price is going up. In the presence of the sons of my people, I give it to you, still saying give it, bury your dead. So because, Abraham is telling him here the full price, and he's also using the words, give it to me. They're also saying, give it to you. In Spanish, we say, me lo das por este costo. Or in other words, you're going to give me this thing for a price, right? But we also say, me lo das, or you give it to me. But it's not really give it to me. It's you're going to sell it to me. Okay, so this is the same wording that they're using here. Okay, so and Abraham bowed before the people of the land. Do you think that the cave and the field was a big hardship for Abraham? What have we learned so far that Abraham was? Was he rich or was he poor?
Very, probably the wealthiest person in that group.
Yeah. That's why they're calling him like Prince and everything else, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because the guy was, God had blessed him a lot.
Yeah.
And remember, through the lying that they had done both times, that supposedly Sarah and him weren't married, and then there was a sister, and you know, both the Pharaoh and then the other dude also, I think it was Abimelech, had given Abraham a lot of money so that they could leave because they were being cursed by God, because they had taken Sarah as their wives. So Abraham had accumulated a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of money. So to him, he just bowed before the people of the land.
Well,
Okay.
later on, he has his own army from the people who servants and slaves of his own household. Something like 300 fighting men. You know?
Yeah, that's who defended Lot when he got in trouble, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was addressing who in verses 23, 7-8? Who was he really trying to talk to here?
Oh, he's trying to talk to that guy. What's his name?
Ephron. He's trying to talk to Ephron, right?
Yeah,
because he was the owner of the land.
He's the guy that owns land.
He's the one, but he was doing it in the presence of the other dudes.
Yes.
Heth's sons.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think that is?
Well, as witnesses.
As witnesses, and that was legal. Now, another thing, like Doc said, the gate of the city, whenever people are negotiating at the gate of the city, it's because they're doing a business transaction.
That's like the courthouse.
That is a courthouse for them. Remember where Lot was sitting when he was in Sodom and it got destroyed. Where was he sitting? At the gate of the city, right?
Yep.
Let's see where he was. Let's see. Sodom and Gomorrah is right here in verse, isn't it chapter 18? Chapter 18? Chapter 18? Chapter 18? Sodom and Gomorrah? No? Was it 19? I think it was 19, no?
19.
Yeah, no, it was 19. So it tells you that here, that now the two angels came to Sodom in the evening as Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. So they think that Lot was a person that was at high standing in Sodom.
Yeah.
So he should have known better, right? That, but you know, he was like really ingrained into that society that was wicked. And nothing good came about Lot, because that's the last time we heard about it, when he got raped by his daughters.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the last, you know, that's not a good thing. But we're in verse, okay, right here, verse 12. Okay, so, and Abraham bowed before the people of the land. He spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, if you will only please listen to me, I will give you the price of the field. Accept it from me, that I may bury my dead there. Then Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, my lord, listen to me. A piece of the land worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between me and you? So bury your dead. Okay, so now the true price came out, right?
Yeah.
So Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed out for Ephron the silver which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Seth, 400 shekels of silver, commercial standard. Okay, so what is a shekel worth now? Let's see here. Let's see what a shekel means. A shekel, the most common Old Testament measure of weight. Also shekel of the king's weight, shekel of the sanctuary. This is a shekel right here. Can everybody see it?
Yeah.
That's a shekel. A shekel weighed 0.4 ounces.
0.4 ounces.
And a shekel of gold is worth $480 now. A shekel of silver is $6. So 400, so that's what, 400?
$240.
$240 nowadays. But that was like way back in the day, which is probably like, I don't know, 100,000 or 200,000 or more.
least.
Yeah, so that's the deal with that. Okay, let's keep on going. On our questions. Okay. So,
16, 17.
so let's go to the application. I want to know what your thoughts are. And I used this application actually just yesterday because during an argument. So what are some advantages? Yeah. What are some advantages of having witnesses during important business dealings? What are your thoughts on that?
It's necessary.
It is necessary. Okay, that's a good response. What else?
Well, nobody can back away if they don't want to respect what they're gonna deal with.
Okay, good.
It forces honesty on both people, on both sides.
Very good. Doc said it forces honesty on both sides. That's a good one. Okay, and why would you say that, Doc?
Well, because you can't change your mind because you got witnesses.
You have witnesses. So if the other person starts bad mouthing the other, that they said that, it's like, wait a minute. It's like, this is what you said, and I can call this person because that was my witness, right?
Yep.
So, and you agreed to it. So, yeah. So, so that was like that was a law back then.
Yeah, you can't change your mind later.
No, you can't change your mind because you have witnesses.
What was said, this is what happened.
Exactly. Okay, so we already went through all of this, and we already know that, okay, so let me go to question 15, because we already went through all this. How did Ephron answer Abraham in verses 23, 14 through 15? And at the end of the dialogue, do you think the original offer of giving or gifting Abraham with a lamb was sincere, or why not?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the first question. How did Ephron answer Abraham in verses 23, 14 through 15?
Well, he quoted him a price. So, what? It's only money. What's that between you and I? We're friends.
We're friends, and he's rich.
Yeah, just go ahead and take it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like whatever. It probably wasn't even like a drop in the sand for Abraham.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anybody else have thoughts on that
Well, I
one?
would imagine both of them are pretty well.
They were
off.
probably loaded. Yeah. Yeah, they were probably very wealthy.
Yeah.
So at the end of the dialogue, do you think the original offer of gifting Abraham with the lamb was sincere, or why not?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And I think like you mentioned, it's like it was part of the cultural practice to go through all this.
Yeah.
It's a gift, but it really wasn't. And it's like it's just polite.
Well, it was a favor. I mean, he wanted to buy it. He could
He wanted
sell it to him, but I think it was a favor. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a favor because he had a need and he complied.
Sure, if you come back, if you need a friend, well, remember I sold you that land,
Yeah, no, yeah.
So,
And it had a lot of significance, as we're going to find out through the narration. A lot of significance.
oh yeah, they keep mentioning this.
Yes, but we're going to find out how, why, and all that. So what did Abraham do after their agreement? I think we already answered that. What were the items contained in Ephron's field? What were the items?
The field, cave, all the trees.
The cave.
Okay, very good. I don't think I even read that yet. So Ephron's field, which was in Machpelah, which faced Mamre, the field and the cave which was in it, and all the trees which were in the field that were within all the confines of its border, were deeded over to Abraham for a possession in the presence of the sons of Heth, before all who went in at the gate of his city. After this, Abraham buried Sarah, his wife, in the cave of the field at Machpelah, facing Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave that is in it were deeded over to Abraham for a burial site by the sons of Heth. Okay, so we already answered at 17, 18. Who did Abraham bury in the cave?
Sarah, his
Okay.
wife.
Sarah. What was the cave in the field to become? What was it going to be?
Okay,
To
Yes.
Abraham for a possession of burial place.
Yes, a burial place. Yes, yes, sir. Very good, very good.
yeah,
That's in verse 20.
yeah, one of, what is it, let's see, Isaac, one of Jacob's wives was buried in that.
Okay,
cave.
no, we're gonna discuss that. Okay, so what is something in modern times that resembles the ancient burial sites? What do we have now that is something similar to that?
Cemeteries.
Well, no, something mausoleum. Very good, Ruth. Yes, it's like a mausoleum because you bury your family there and everything else. So this is what's gonna. So let's read the narration.
Cemeteries do the same thing, right?
Well, the cemeteries too, yeah, because you have your family there
A bit
too.
of trivia.
Yeah.
I grew up at Mount Hebron United Methodist Church in the community of Mount Hebron in Alabama,
Oh.
Dale County,
Okay. Well, there you go.
Mount Hebron.
Okay. They have a Hebron close to Corpus Christi too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't pronounce it Hebron, they pronounce Hebron,
Did they?
Mount Hebron.
Oh, okay. Look at her. She looks so cute.
Yeah.
On top of my black hat. Okay. So it says when Ephron said that he would give the field and the cave 3 times in verse 11, he did not mean it was free. This was Bedouin bargaining, giving for giving. Though Abraham did not want the whole field, he was willing to take it at a high price, 400 shekels of silver, to get the cave. The transaction was then finalized in the presence of all the Hittites at the city gate, the place of legal and business dealings. In this cave was buried not only Sarah, but also Abraham, Isaac and his wife Rebekah, and Jacob and Leah. Okay, remember that. Okay, we're gonna go through Jacob and Leah because Jacob was so in love with Rachel, but we're gonna find out that Rachel was not the right woman for him. Okay, but anyway, the point of this event was to ensure that the cave and field would be Abraham's possession. Okay, so it's very important, okay? The point of this event, the point of this whole chapter, even though it seems insignificant, it is not, because it was to ensure that the cave and the field would be Abraham's possession. In faith, he bought the land, taken nothing from these people. It was important then. There were people buried then, where people buried their dead. Burial was to be done in their native land. Remember that Abraham was not from Canaan. Right. He was from Padam or Ram.
Padaram.
Yeah, Padaram. And he did not go back to bury Sarah, but he stayed in Canaan. Why? Okay. Yep. It says Abraham was an alien and a stranger among the people. His hope was in the land because who had promised him the land? Who was the one who had promised him Canaan?
God.
God. Yeah. So that was his home now. So that's why he didn't go back to his original house or land. When Abraham bought this cave, he was renouncing Padaram, where Abraham lived before, and what would have been the custom to bury their dead there, that is northwest Mesopotamia. This had just been brought to the reader's attention in verses 22 to 24. Remember, if you go back, it starts mentioning his family and all of that that they were still back there. So it had already been mentioned before, and then again in 20. If you want to go back to these verses, it tells you again where he originally came from. Let's go to 2020. Well, there is no 2024. No, 22, 20 to 24. Okay, so 22, 20 to 24. Yeah, and it came about these things that it was told Abraham, saying, behold, Milcah has also borne children to your brother Nahor. All of these family members are back in Mesopotamia.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not in Canaan because the promise was made to Abraham. It wasn't made to his entire family. Okay, so but he brings the attention to those folks. Remember that I told you that we would come back to them. That's where the connection is. It indirectly mentions the relatives of Abraham who remain in Mesopotamia. Canaan was now Abraham's new native land, but interestingly, the only part of the promised land Abraham himself ever received, he bought, and that was a burial cave. In other words, Abraham was living there, but he hadn't bought anything. It's like God had promised him that land, but it wasn't officially his. Remember that the pagans were still there. Yeah. The only thing that he came to possess while he was still alive was this burial cave. Okay, that was it. Even though he was rich and everything, that was his only land. This first property of the patriarchs, a cave, bound them to the promised land. This was a real occupation of the land. There would never be a return to Mesopotamia. Later patriarchs would also die and be buried with their ancestors in Canaan. The promise of the land is one of the major themes in Genesis, but so is death. But death in this passage was also a basis for hope. In life, the patriarchs were sojourners or travelers. In death, they were heirs of the promise and occupied the land. The patriarchs and the others died, not receiving the promises, yet they died in faith. And this you can be found in the book of Hebrews 11:39 to 40. It was not God's plan to give them the promised rest without the participation of New Testament believers. A Sabbath rest yet remains, yet those who believe enter it even now and will fully realize it in the future. Hebrews chapter 4, 8 through 10 tells us that. The point is that God's promises to those in faith are not exhausted in this life. So in other words, just because, Abraham had received all this promise, but he knew that they weren't going to be fulfilled in his lifetime. He knew that they were going to be fulfilled in the future with his future generations. So they're not exhausted in this life. As Abraham in hope bought a gravesite in the land, so believers today have a hope beyond this life. The time of death, when one's natural inclination is to mourn as the world mourns, should be the time of a believer's greatest demonstration of faith, for the recipient of God's promises has a hope beyond the grave. Amen, amen.
Yep.
Okay, I love it. Okay, so I included this picture because this is what they have built over the original cave where Abraham buried Sarah. So this big building right here, and this is the second most treasured land site of Jerusalem. Or actually, it wasn't even in Jerusalem, it's in Hebron. So this is one of the great, if you go to a tour over there, they'll be taking you there. But it is not possessed by the Jewish people. It is possessed by the Middle Eastern people.
Yeah, Muslims.
The Muslims. So just like the Temple Mount, where Solomon originally built the temple, and then it was rebuilt again, that no longer belongs to the Jews. It belongs to the Muslims.
Right.
But in the future, it will come back again to the Jews, and that's when Christ will come.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah. Where do you get that?
I get this picture.
That right screen, the information that you was reading on.
Oh, I get this from the Bible commentary. From this commentary right here, the Bible Knowledge Commentary. Yeah, and then you can line it up to your scriptures. So if you want to go to Genesis, it goes along with your.
Okay. Let me,
But they sell this commentary in print.
no, I just didn't have it on the phone here.
Yeah, so they have this Bible Knowledge Commentary in print. So if you want to buy it, you can buy it.
No, down, if I can download it here. Lou, take my phone and
We can't do it right now, honey. We're in the middle of a Bible study.
Okay, so let me stop